What's up? Welcome back to the Curdheads Podcast. It's been a long time since I made an episode. I wanted to make one for the draft, kind of giving you guys my thoughts on the players, breaking them down a little bit, and here we are, a couple weeks after the draft. Um, but we're gonna get into it, and we're also gonna talk about some kicker news because last Friday Brandon McManus was released, so that means it is the Trace Mack era. But let's get right into it. It's been a while, a little rusty. But let's talk about this draft class. I'm really happy with this draft class. Green Bay addressed a lot of needs. I don't think they reached for any of their guys too. Maybe one of them, but they addressed a lot of their needs. There's not a lot of holes on this roster, um, especially after the pickup of veteran backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor. I'm really happy with this draft class. Let's get right into it. So Green Bay's first pick, as we know, they don't have that first round pick. So the first pick came in the second round at pick 52, and they drafted Brandon Cisse. Brandon Cisse, cornerback out of South Carolina, standing at 6', 190, only 20 years old, which is like pretty big. Like he's only 20 years old, which is nuts. And that's major strength. He's got a lot of these guys, in the draft come in at 22, 23 years old. He's 20 years old. So, like, he's still going to grow into his body, mature, and there's just so much potential, so much that he can, um, that he could still kind of just grow into, with him being so young. Um, he ran a 4.4 at his pro day, so really good athlete. He had a 9.24 RAS score, so elite athletic score. For a corner, that's what Green Bay looks for. We know that. A little bit about his college career. He spent 2 years at NC State before transferring to South Carolina. Went to South Carolina, had a really good year. So his strengths, click and close. All right. So when he's backpedaling, when he hits that break, he can break right to the receiver. Really good click and close. So really good break. Fun fact about him, he only allowed one 100-yard game in coverage during his time as a starter in college. And that lone 100-yard game came against Texas A&M standout Casey Concepcion, the Browns receiver. So, that's pretty impressive. Despite that single game, Cisse was highly regarded for his coverage ability, never allowing more than 3 receptions in any other game during his time as starter. So, besides that game, he never allowed more than 3 receptions in a game or 100 yards. So, really good. And keep in mind, he's doing this all at 18, 19 years old. So, that's really impressive. He could play in the slot. He's got the versatility. Played some snaps in the slot in college. He's long, athletic cornerback, right? Who can cover ground and match with outside receivers. He could fit in man, but I really like him in zone, especially in this what we're anticipating for this Jonathan Gannon cover 4 scheme with his click and close ability. I think he's a really good scheme fit for Green Bay. Some areas that he needs to develop in: tackling. There were a couple plays, if you just watch his highlight tape, where his highlights look really, really good. His tackling looks really, really good. He's, they're either blitzing him or he's in the slot and just kind of reads it and flies into the backfield. Thing is, I think he's a willing tackler. It's just his tackling form. He's out of control. It's not going to work in the NFL against, better athletes, bigger guys too. He's out of control. He's got to clean up his tackling form. If he does that, I think he'll be fine. Ball skills. He only had 2 career interceptions in college. So, not the best ball skills, not a ball hawk. He's got to work on technique and tackling. But, if he does that, he could be a good player. My question for him is, can he win a starting spot early? You look at what Green Bay did this offseason, right? They cut Nate Hobbs. They still have Keyshawn Nixon. They have Valentine. They signed Benjamin St. Juste. They now draft Brandon Cisse at 52. They draft a corner that we're going to talk about a little later on day 3. Can he win a starting spot early? This cornerback room is going to be really fun to watch in training camp, right? Who's going to win these starting 2 spots? I think Keyshawn's going to get one of them, right? He's the vet. He's got this Pro Bowl nod that he can use now, but I think Keyshawn will get one of them, and I think that second spot is really Valentine, Cisse, and maybe Benjamin St. Juste, but we'll see. If you know me, I'm not the biggest Nixon or Valentine fan, so opening day I would like to see St. Juste and Cisse, but hey, we'll see. But how early can he win that opening spot? He'll definitely get snaps this year. He'll play, but how early can he get that spot? Can he be the starter week 1? Now, in the 3rd round, Green Bay, they have pick 84, and they move up 7 spots to pick 77. They trade 84 and a 5th rounder, 160. That 160 was the pick they received from Dontavian Wicks. But they moved up to go get their defensive tackle, a position we know that Green Bay, needed going into this draft. They scheduled a good amount of top 30 visits with defensive tackles, but they select Chris McClellan from Missouri at 77. He's 6'4", 313. RAS was an 8 out of 10. In college, he spent 2 years at Florida, and then he transferred to Missouri, where he played 2 years there. He finished with his best season yet in 2025 with 6 sacks. He is 22 years old. Let's talk about it. And if you're watching the live stream, the Jenks live stream, I don't know. I was a little shocked. Not a little shocked, but I was like, I like some other guys on the board. Dominic Orange was a fan favorite. A true nose tackle, a true run stopper. He was a fan favorite. A lot of people wanted him to get selected. Green Bay goes Chris McClellan, though. And if you really think about Green Bay and the things that they look for in their versatility and a guy who can really do it all, Chris McClellan makes a lot more sense than Dominic Orange. Chris McClellan can give you something in the run game and the pass game, when Dominic Orange was more of just that nose, first down, second down player, in the pass rush. I don't think he could really give you a lot. And Green Bay moves up to get him, which tells me they really liked him. And Brian Gutekunst after the draft talked about how they were considering taking him at 52. So, Green Bay must feel really good about this guy and the value they got him. If they were considering him at pick 52 and they get him at 77, you know what I mean? So what is that? 25 spots later, they feel like they got him for really good value. So they liked him better than Orange, and they wanted to make sure they went up and got him. So like I said, he can give you something in the pass and the run game. He showed that in college, coming off his best season yet with 6 sacks. He's a versatile interior defense lineman with length and strength to fit multiple fronts, helps with run defense. Areas to improve, right, or to develop, right, pass rush. Some of the stuff he did in college, I don't know if he can get away with in the pros, right? So he's got to kind of develop a pass rush plan. Some moves, in college, he really just kind of bull rushed. I don't know if that's sustainable in the NFL. May not be an elite pass rush production guy, but technique work needed against, like I just said, work. I'm reading off my notes, but like I just said, and then my questions for him are going to be, where does he play in this 3-4 defense of Jonathan Gannon's? Is he going to be an end? Is he going to be the nose? Right now, I think you're looking at your top 3 interior guys being Wyatt, Hargrave, and I guess McClellan. But you know how Green Bay is with the rookies, so they're probably call Rooks ahead of him. So I'm kind of thinking right now it'd be Wyatt and Brooks at the end, and then Hargrave in the nose. But when Chris McClellan gets on the field, where will he be playing? Is he going to be the nose? Is he going to be maybe an end? So my question is, where is he going to play in this defense, and can he become Green Bay's nose? Because that's what they're lacking, even with this draft pick. You look at Wyatt, you look at Hargrave, Brooks. All those guys are 3 techs. And McClellan kind of is too. But, maybe Green Bay's got different plans for him, Maybe they want him to put on weight and they're really just going to work him into that nose spot. So we'll see. Can he be Green Bay's nose? If not, this might be one of the last positions that they still need to go out and get. And that's got to be through free agency or maybe trade to get that true nose tackle. Because you look at that interior defense line group, and I like it. Like I just said, I just listed off the names, right? You got Wyatt, Hargrave, Brooks. Now McClellan, you got Brinson. I like it. But those bodies and those types of players, no one's really that nose, like that TJ Slayton nose. So we'll see if, Green Bay thinks McClellan can be that. And if not, let's see if they go and get someone who can be. In the 4th round, at pick 120, the Green Bay Packers select Dennis-Sutton, edge rusher from Penn State. Now, this was the guy I wanted, that I think a lot of people, a lot of Packer fans wanted. He was a fan favorite, and it's the way he tested. He tested incredibly well, had a 9.96 RES, so among the top edge athletic scores ever recorded, ever. He's 6'6", 256, so he fits Green Bay size that they like at the edge. 22 years old, from Penn State. He played all 4 years at Penn State. Numbers are pretty good. 23.5 career sacks in 24 and 2025. He both had 8.5 sacks. He's got 2 picks to his name. And he also blocked 3 kicks this past year for Penn State, so made an impact on special teams. Why do we think, I'm trying to think about how I want to go with this. Why did we want him as Packer fans? Edge rusher, we needed someone, right? You just traded Rashawn Gary, King Sanabari went out the door. So you left with Micah, who we know is going to miss the first 5 weeks. You have Lucas Van Ness, who still hasn't really taken that step, or maybe is where we want him to be, or where we thought he would be. You have Baron Sorrell, who showed some flashes, Colin Oliver. But, you need to add to this room, right? You lost 2 guys. You lost a lot of snaps. And you had one of the freakiest dudes in the draft, coming from a big school, Penn State. And, he was, he's coming into a room with another Penn State edge rusher, Micah Parsons. So that's exciting. Micah's a good teammate, good leader. And, man, with Penn State another Penn State guy coming in, Mike is really going to take him under his wing. But let's talk about him. He is a freak. He really is. He's got good numbers. He tests it really well. And before we go into strengths and areas, you may think, actually, I'll say it after. But let's go into the strengths. He's a freak. He can play both the pass and run. So I think, he could play all 3 downs. Blocked 3 punts, like I said, this past season, so can make a difference on special teams. He's a Penn State pass rusher, right? I put that as a strength because, he's walking into a room with Micah Parsons. He's got really, rare quickness for his size, a lot of upside. He has the biggest upside in this entire, in the Packers draft class. He's got the most upside. And he plays with a lot of effort. Played a lot of snaps in college. Never really saw him took a play off. Plays hard. Now, areas to improve. And the first one I'm talking about a while. And this is why a guy like this kind of dropped in the draft and became a 4th-round pick. Now, some Packer fans, including me, were considering this guy in the 2nd round. 3rd round, we loved him. But again, the 4th round, we're like, oh my God, this is steal. Unbelievable. He dropped to 120 right to us. Why? There's got to be a reason why he did, right? Well, the reason why he did is the tape. He's got the size, went to the big school, he tested really well. The numbers in college are pretty good, last 2 seasons with 8.5 sacks. The thing is the tape. The tape is not good, and with this athletic profile, and after watching the tape, you're just sitting there just wanting more out of him. The tape's not that impressive. Some of the stuff is really good, and then some of the stuff he's just and it wasn't consistent enough. So I think the tape was a huge reason why he fell. Now, I can't believe he fell to the fourth. I think he was going to fall to maybe the third, the latest. Green Bay, even Brian Gutekunst confirmed that um, the end of day two, they were trying the trade back into the third round to go select him, but they couldn't really, and he kind of just fell in the lap in the fourth round. He's got to develop a pass rush plan. And consistency, like I said. So needs a plan, consistency. In college, it looks like he just kind of, there was never really a plan. He just kind of made it up as he went along, and, his athletic ability helped him out. But he's got to develop that. And then my big question for him is, can he beat out Sorrell for that edge three? When Micah comes back, it's going to be Micah and Lucas, and then who's going to be the next guy up? Who's going to be that rotational guy like Kingsley Enagbare was a year ago? The benefit, though, he will get snaps early, right? We would think, because Mike Parsons is going to miss the first month of the season, so it's going to be Lucas, it's going to be Barron Sorrell, and it's going to be him, right? Can he beat out Sorrell to be that starter? He's going to get a lot of opportunities early. So this is another position that's going to be really fun to watch in camp. Kind of that three-way battle between him, Sorrell, and Oliver for that starting spot early in the season and for that rotational spot later in the season. But like I said, I'm really pumped about him. He was like one of my favorite guys in this draft class. I was pumped when Green Bay drafted him, and he's just got a bunch of upside. I can't believe he fell to us in the fourth round, and I'm really excited to watch him. Next one in the fifth round at pick 153, the Packers select Jagger Burton, center guard from Kentucky. So 6'4", 312, 6'4", 312 pounds, 23 years old, had a 9.88 RAS score. So really great athlete. Played all 4 years at Kentucky. And this guy was just meant to be a Green Bay Packer. He won the Paul Hornung Award in high school as, the top top player in Kentucky, top offensive lineman in Kentucky. Got better every single year throughout college. So he's really solid at everything. And he's got good athleticism, and, he's versatile inside, right? He can play guard and he can play center. Areas to improve, just keeping his leverage. He lunges, leans a lot, drops his head a lot. And once you do that, you're kind of giving up your control. And now that, defensive lineman has control of you, once you lose your leverage and there's nothing else you can really do about that. So clean it up, which is very, very easy to do. He can clean it up, no problem. He's not a mauler, which is fine, but he's not. There's no plays on tape that kind of like make you jump off the screen and like, wow, this guy just ran through this guy's face and kicked his butt. Like, no, he's not that. He's going to be a developmental guy. He's got to fix his technique, and I think my question would be, can he win that swing interior spot? Your interior spot looking like Aaron Banks at left guard, center's going to be Sean Ryan, right guard's going to be Belton. So it looks like he's going to be battling probably with Jacob Monk for that interior guard spot. So can he beat him out? That's going to be my question for him. Green Bay's been pretty good over the past couple of years with drafting centers. Hopefully he can be the next great center in Green Bay and, develop and be that, or, interior guy if he beats out, I don't know, Belton for right guard or this and that. But, he's going to be fun one to watch. We knew the offense line was a big question mark heading into the season. Green Bay said, nope, we like our guys, right? They bring back Sean Ryan. They don't cut Aaron Banks. So they're really just running it back with putting Jordan Morgan at left tackle for Rasheed Walker, which we knew was the plan all along. And, then they draft a guy to be that, hopefully, backup center, swing interior guy. So hopefully he can compete, show something to give us some more confidence in that offensive line room. Next, we have Damani Jackson in the 6th round. With pick 201, we drafted him cornerback from Alabama. He's 6'1", 194 pounds, 23 years old, ran a 4.4 at the combine. So fast guy, athletic guy, was a 9 RAS out of 10. So really athletic guy. Spent 2 years at USC and then 2 years at Alabama. Here's a guy, and I'll talk about one of his kind of areas to improve upon or negatives. Here's a guy like Brandon Cisse, not a lot of ball production, not a lot of ball skills. Only had 2 picks in his college career, and one of them was like a punt. It was a deep ball, and the receiver cut his route off short, and Damani was basically catching a punt. Strength, speed, tackling, really good tackler. But he's got to improve in one area that we'll talk about in a little bit. He was kind of like looked at as a top pick, as one of the top corners before kind of having a down season. So a little similar to Kalen King, if you remember him, the corner from Penn State that we drafted 2 years ago. Kalen King was supposed to be the first round pick, and then he didn't have a good season and didn't really test that well, and he drops to the 7th round. Well, Damani Jackson is kind of in that similar boat, similar situation. He was a high recruit in high school. He's got good length, and he can play off. He can play press. Maybe he can even play in the slot for Green Bay. Areas to improve. So we talked about the ball skills. Now, good tackler. Thing is, he takes really bad angles. I mean, when he's right there, when he's wrapping someone up, it looks good. He takes really bad angles, though, which is not a good thing, especially when you're playing DB corner. Your last line of defense. And if you don't take a good angle, you don't get there, it's a touchdown. So he's got to fix his angles. He got benched. Part of the reason why he dropped in draft, he got benched this year. So that hurt him. He's got some injury history, and inconsistent college playing time. Like I said, he didn't really play a lot of special teams in college. So, that's going to kind of hurt him a little bit, because to make this team in his position, I mean, you're looking at, he's probably the 5th, 6th corner. So to make this team, like, you really got to, be a good special teamer and just be capable of playing there. So does not have a lot of experience in college doing it, but he's definitely going to be asked to do it in the NFL, and that's how he's going to make this team. Now, good tackler, but take some poor angles. So on punt, on kickoff, he's really got to fix those angles if he wants to earn that role in special teams. And then our last pick of the draft, Green Bay trades back into the 6th round The last pick of the 6th round, 216. They trade both their 7th round picks, 236 and 255, to move back up, and they select Trey Smack, kicker from Florida. So, I mean, quick little breakdown: 6'1", 188, 22 years old. He spent all 3 years at Florida. His field goal percentage in 23 was 81, in 24 was 85.7, and in 2025 was 81.8. From 50 plus, I'm not going to read through all of them, but 50 plus in 23, he was 2 for 3. In 24, he was 3 for 4. And for 25, he was 5 for 6. His longest was 56. Extra point wise, in 23, he was 29 out of 29. In 2024, he was 44 out of 44, and 25, he was 27 for 28. So, and he also made like a 65, 60 something yard field goal at the combine. I'm kind of just going off for what I've seen on Twitter and what other guys say. He's got a lot of power. He's got really good height on his kicks, really good arc, strong leg, accuracy. He's going to add competition to the kicking game. These are notes I had last week before they got rid of Brendan McManus. Areas to develop or questions. He's I wonder what the transition from college to NFL kicking is going to be for him. It's always kind of uncertain how these guys are going to transition. And can he become Green Bay's guy? It's the question, right? Can he be our next Mason Crosby? That's the question. And I'm really pumped to see him in camp and in training camp. But before we go into McManus, actually, we talk about McManus a little bit. So, they make this pick, and you have McManus on the roster, and you're thinking, oh, great. Like, you got some really good competition now for Brandon McManus, something I wanted. And I pointed out earlier in the offseason, like, sign someone. I was thinking sign someone, to have competition with McManus. They end up drafting the best kicker in the draft for competition. Okay, that definitely puts McManus on notice. Trey Smack has every advantage in this competition. He's younger, right? He's cheaper. He's got more years of team control. So if the battle was close in camp or he was a little worse, he was still probably going to win it. But the Packers don't even let it get to camp. On Friday, they released McManus, which was kind of surprising. Like, I'm all for, like, moving in this Trey Smack era and getting rid of McManus. Like, McManus, he was terrible last season. And we all know how he did in that playoff game. It was bad. So I was ready to move on. But, like, to not even have a competition, what's the point of getting rid of him now in May? Now, unless McManus came out and was like, demanded out and this and that, but like, well, what's the point? Let him go battle for it at least. Competition is healthy. Competition is good because without it, I mean, you're really just giving Trey Smack the keys to the car. Like, you're giving him the job without kind of ever seeing him kick in the NFL. Like, I don't know. I would have liked to have that competition between him and McManus, but I mean, I think Green Bay, I guess they believe in Trey Smack, and they're gonna ride with him. But yeah, it's gonna be Green Bay's kicker this year, Trey Smack. Let's go over numbers quick. Brandon Cisse is gonna wear number 2. I love that. McClellan's gonna wear 55, a little weird. Dennis-Sutton's gonna wear 51. I don't mind that. I was kind of thinking 55 or 52 for him. Jagger's gonna wear 52. Damani Jackson's gonna wear 20. Cool with that. As you know, Jamal Bullard switched to 7, so 20 is now open. And then Trey Smack is going to wear 28. So overall numbers, I love Cisse at 2, McClellan at 55, and I think Dennis-Sutton with 51, I think can grow on me. 52 at offensive line is just a little weird for me, just because I mean over the past, decade and just my time being a Pack friend, 52 has always been an edge rusher, right? Clay Matthews or Rashawn Gary, so a little weird. Damani at 20 is perfect. Trace Mack 28. We'll see if that changes, because I'm pretty sure he had 29 in college. But overall, I really like this draft for Green Bay. I don't think they reached for anyone. Maybe McClellan a little bit, but man, they had McClellan really high on their board, and he's just their preferred player, right? Someone who can give you something in the pass and run game. I like it though. I think, they really addressed their needs, which is not always the case in the draft. They take best player available, but like I felt like they did that with addressing their needs. Going into the season, my top 5 needs were offensive line, corner, interior defense line, backup QB, right, a linebacker for Quay, kicker competition, and edge, kind of like that third guy, punt kick returner, running back, depth, and a tight end, kind of that true like kind of blocker. Offensive line, did they address it? Well, they brought back Sean Ryan. They draft Jagger. So I'd say, maybe they trade for a piece like they did a couple years, 2 years ago for Kennard, or a year ago. Corner, I feel like they did that. You dump Nate Hobbs, you bring in Benjamin St. Juice, you draft Cisse and Damani Jackson. I feel like they brought some good competition into that cornerback room with a veteran and with, a young guy in Cisse who's got a lot of potential, fits the, has the athletic profile, Interior defensive line, they did that, bringing in Hargrave, drafting McClellan. Do they still go out and get that true nose? We'll see. Backup quarterback, they did that with Tyrod Taylor. Love that signing. Linebacker, we knew Quay was at the door. They bring in Zaire Franklin. Kicker competition, well, instead of comp, they just said, McManus, you're gone. And Trace Mack is in. So made a kicker change, which is what I wanted. And that was definitely a need. An edge, a third guy. They did that, right? They drafted denied Dennis-Sutton, who can be, the third guy and challenge Baron Sorrell for that. Punt kick returner, they did that with Sky Moore. And the two areas where they didn't really address at all is running back depth, right? I mean, look, if Marshawn Lloyd stays healthy, we don't even need to talk about this. But we can't bet on that. We can't say that. Right now it's Jacobs, Chris Brooks, and then Lloyd is question mark. Tight ends, kind of that true blocker. They brought back Josh Wiley, so you have him to complement Kraft and Musgrave. Is that enough? We'll see. Do they make a move there? I know that Gutekunst said that they did kind of want to address that in the draft, and they did kind of want to take a tight end in the draft, but there was like a tight end run in rounds 2 and 3, and they all kind of got snatched up. But overall, really good draft. I'm not going to put a grade on it. It's kind of silly. Really can't grade these guys until 2-3 years down the line. But yeah, and then you guys are probably getting this video on Tuesday, Wednesday. It is scheduled release week, so by Thursday night, I'm pretty sure the full schedule is going to release. But little by little, I can't even talk. Little by little throughout this week, leaks and games will be coming out. So, this is exciting. I love this. I get to see where Green Bay, what Green Bay's schedule is going to look like, how many primetime games they have, if they have a good bye week, are they playing on holidays, the home stretches, the road stretches. It's really interesting. So excited for all this to come out. I'll give you guys my schedule wish list. I actually posted it this morning. So I said, this morning, so I woke up and I was like, I want the Bears. I want the Bears week 1 in Chicago. I want the Bears week 1 in Chicago. Then a little bit, they announced that Sunday night, week 1 is going to be Cowboys Giants. So with, I think the Cowboys, I don't know, with the Cowboys being off the list for Seattle, possible team Seattle could play week 1 with their, season opener. It looks like it's going to be the Bears and Seahawks on Wednesday night to open up the NFL season. So that kind of takes Chicago out of the question. So then I said with that, I'll change my prediction. I think Green Bay is going to open up with Miami. It's going to have some, game with some noise, but not that big of noise. I think it would be a 1 p.m. game. Miami at Green Bay, Halfley, Malik Willis return. I could see that happening. So I'll say that's my prediction right now. But my wish list, of course, number 1 is a mid to late bye. I don't want a week 4 bye, week 5, week 6, like we had last year. I want a mid to late bye. Week 9 to week 13, somewhere in there. 2, I want a home stretch to end the season. I love ending the season at Lambeau. Give us 2 home games, week 17 and week 18 in the frozen tundra. 3, let's not travel across seas. Let's not play the Saints in Paris. Let's play them in New Orleans. We played the Saints this year in an away game, and the Saints are up, or the Saints are definitely playing a game in Paris. So hopefully it is not Green Bay who gets that game, and I don't want to travel. 4, Lions of Thanksgiving. It's been good to us. It's a lot of fun. Let's do it again. Lions, Thanksgiving. Come on. And then 5, this would be a fun one. I'm going to go Packers, Bills. We host the Bills in Green Bay. Make that the 8:20 game on Christmas. I'd love that. 8:20 night game, Christmas Day at Lambeau. 2 cold weather teams, 2 of, I'd say, America's favorite teams in the Bills and the Packers. I think that would be awesome on Christmas Day. So that's kind of my schedule wish list. I'll make a video next weekend kind of breaking down the schedule, my thoughts on it, little record prediction, the um the home stretches, road stretches by week, primetime games, my thoughts on it, all that. So I'll make a video next week talking about it. This one was kind of a long one. Definitely rusty. I've not recorded a podcast, I feel like, in like 2 months. So a lot of talking and messing up words and blabbering on. So apologize for that, but I just wanted to make an episode talking about this draft class, um, talking about the kicking situation and all of that. But I hope you guys have a great week. This week's a fun week, like I said, with the schedule coming out, and we'll be back next weekend to break it all down for you. So have a great week. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me at Curdheads on Twitter, X, and Instagram. And of course, follow the Jenks Island podcast. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.